Welcome to the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay. This is your positive path for spiritual living.
I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Many of you will recognize that prayer, Ho'oponopono, Polynesian prayer. Been around for a long, long time. And we practice it here in our classes, and we've shared it with you on Sunday mornings many times, I realize. And I'm sharing it again with you this morning because I believe that it's immensely powerful in terms of our awakening, which is what this journey is all about. Our awakening, or our remembering the truth, not only of who we are, but who all of our brothers and sisters on this planet are as well. And what everything is, to take it still another step. Everything, not just individuals, not just people, but everything that's a part of your experience. This prayer will support you, my friends, in all of its elegant simplicity to remember who you are and what you're doing here. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. It's powerful because it contains three of the most powerful spiritual terms or principles or concepts or understandings that we have available to us. And simply stated, they are love and forgiveness and gratitude. Now, we all know what it feels like to love, and we know what it feels like to be loved. We know that there's no more wonderful feeling in the world than to know that someone loves us, that they care about us, that our presence in their life makes a difference. And there's certainly nothing sweeter than the love that we experience with our family and with our friends. It's a beautiful quality. And it's a quality that we are capable of living out of more completely every day of our lives, but we have to wake up to its significance, and then we have to make the commitment that when the illusions of fear and hatred and anxiety and resentment come into our experience, we will not let them take up residency in our soul. Because who we are is so much greater than that, my friends. And if there is anything that is going to save this planet and save the human race in this day and age, I don't know what it will be, save the power of love. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is such a beautiful activity for us to engage in, and yet sometimes it can be so difficult. Have you noticed? It can be excruciating, because even when we know that we should forgive, even when we know that we should set aside the betrayals and the wrongdoings that other people seem to have inflicted upon us, there seems to be almost something in the collective human consciousness that says, hold on, justify, and let's have a little vindication here. It's hard to let that go. And yet what it really boils down to, my friends, is priorities, priorities. So when that experience comes along your way and you don't feel like you have the power to forgive, remind yourself that it's a God-given gift and bring it forth. The sooner that you can do that, the sooner that you will see anxiety and stress and trouble and difficulty begin to melt before your eyes. The only thing that is making it real for you is your attachment to it, and you can lay it down. You can lay it down this morning. So if you have some resentment or some wrongdoing that goes back to yesterday, this morning, last week, last year, 5 years ago, a decade ago, this morning would be an excellent opportunity for you to lay it down, because it's nobody's burden but yours. Nobody. And no one else can lay it down for you. It's simply a decision. It's a commitment. I've carried this long enough. I'm not going to allow it to stifle my joy, my spontaneity, my light, and my love. And I've said many, many times, and I will say many, many times as long as I'm in ministry, there's nothing more powerful than gratitude. There's nothing more powerful than that feeling of appreciation. And when you identify with it and you give it consent to grow, you become, as I've often said, a gratitude generator. And every day when you get up, the very first thing that you do is begin to think of things that you can be grateful for. And especially on those mornings when you say, well, I don't have a damn thing to be grateful for today. God knows it's just a lousy life. Yeah, well, you know what? You're here. That's the starting place. I remember I had a neighbor back when I lived in Kansas City, and I was young and just gotten married. It was a small house in a little subdivision called Ruskin Heights in Kansas City. And I had a neighbor who was perpetually negative. I know that none of you know any perpetually negative people, and certainly no one in this room is perpetually negative. But this guy's name was Jack, and his wife was Alberta. And Jack and Alberta were just kind of parked in a negative space all the time. So he comes out one day, and I swear to you, this is the truth. It's beautiful and sunshiny in my backyard, and in Jack and Alberta's backyard, it is pouring down rain. And Jack walks out and says, "Oh, it's raining, this weather is lousy." And I had just reached the end of my rope, and I said, "Well, Jack, it's a whole lot better than being dead, isn't it?" He never again said a negative word to me from that day forward. I know he was thinking him, but he never let him out of his mouth. I brought with me this morning from my bathroom medicine cabinet a pair of tweezers. And I wanted to use them because as I entered the room this morning, I noticed that you had a speck in your eye. So if you'll just bear with me and humor me, I'm going to put this book in front of my face. Now, I cannot see anything at all. I'm going to take these tweezers, and I'm going to remove the speck from your eye right now. Are you ready?
No.
You're laughing. And you know what's interesting? That is the preoccupation of every one of our lives, my friends. We're walking around, as Jesus put it, with a great log before our eyes. And we don't even think about this log being there. We actually think we're seeing everything just the way it is. We're not. It's a log. And rather than do anything to try to get that log out of our own vision, we're running around with tweezers in our hands trying to pick the specks out of everybody else's eyes. Now that would be a good definition, in my opinion, of insanity. It makes absolutely no sense. There's no way you were going to let me pick around there with those tweezers with that book in front of my face, and I don't blame you. And yet we do it. We do it. I want to share with you our scripture for this morning, because I think it's one of the most powerful illustrations that was ever given to us by our teacher and way shower, elder brother, Jesus Christ. From Matthew, 7th chapter, 3rd through 5th verses. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, "Let me take that speck out of your eye," when there is all the while this great log in your own eye? You hypocrite! First, take the log out of your own eye, and then you'll be able to see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Hello? It's so simply stated. And what it's really telling us is that we are in no position whatsoever to lay a judgment on another person or even on a situation in our lives, my friends, because we just can't see. So let us then take that wonderful illustration that Jesus shared with us and blend it, mix it up with the Ho'oponopono prayer, beginning with the phrase, "I love you." I recognize you as an expression of the divine. For all true love has its origin in the divine. So when we say "I love you," and when we're past that sense of romantic love or falling in love or love that comes and goes, we're in truly divine cosmic love. It's because we are seeing the spiritual reality of another person or a situation in our lives. So when we say "I love you," we're saying, I see who you are. I see beyond the illusions of the log that's in front of my own vision, and I see the spiritual truth of your reality. I'm sorry, and a lot of times we think, well, why should I say I'm sorry to somebody who offended me, right? You betray me, and I'm going to tell you I'm sorry? What sense is there in that? I'll tell you what the sense is. I'm sorry for not being able to see who you are because of this log I have placed in front of my eyes. I apologize. I'm seeing something that is not there. It seems to be there, but all I'm really seeing is a log. I can't see anything else because that's all there is. So I'm sorry that I'm not seeing who you are, or that I didn't see who you are. I apologize for that. I want to see clearly. I want to see spiritual reality in everybody and everything in my world. Please forgive me for making a judgment based on my limited vision. I think you're a jerk. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. I got a log in front of my eyes. I can't tell what you are. So what I'm going to do is ask for the other person to forgive the fact that unknowingly I've placed this log in front of my vision, and I have no idea what I'm seeing or what I'm doing. Now, this journey, my friends, is not for the faint-hearted. Are you hearing me? It's not. And if you're the kind of person, and I'm not putting any judgment here, if you're kind of the person that wants to hang on to past resentments and hang on to a sense of betrayal, I know you never do that, do you? No, you can't. You haven't learned it yet. God willing, you won't. God willing. Thank you for helping me to be aware of my obstruction. Whenever anybody offends you, they are gifting you, my friends, because they're helping you to realize this log is in front of your face. And they're giving you the reminder and the opportunity to remove that log. I came across the most interesting article in Discover magazine. This was in the July-August issue of this year. And it said that science has now confirmed that only 4.9% of the universe consists of matter that is visible, that you can actually see. Very small percentage of the universe, 4.9, matter that you can see. 26.8 is invisible dark matter. You can't see it at all. And beyond that, 68.3% is formless energy with no substance whatsoever. That's pretty amazing. And does that help you? Has it helped me to realize that no matter how broadly I think I'm viewing anything or experiencing anything, I'm just observing a little tiny bit of it, that which I can perceive with my five senses. There's all kinds of stuff going on here, my friends, that we are totally unaware of. And it's called the activity of God. It's called the activity of God as the Holy Spirit. You can count on that. Lean not on your own understanding, we've been told. Lean not on your own human judgments. Let them go. So I'm proposing to you this morning that this log actually is made up or comprised of judgments, assumptions, opinions, and perspectives based on 4.9 or less % of any given situation. Because, we can't see even all the visible matter in the universe. So it's even less than 4.9. We have taken this limited understanding, this limited perception of ourselves, other people, and life, and we have constructed a log. We have constructed a way of being, a belief system, a life, all around this limited understanding that we can only see this much, and yet we walk around from day to day thinking we can see it all, thinking that we know it all. We don't. Now we have access to divine mind, which can open us still further to this collective energy that consists without the universe or throughout the universe. But in our daily awake, aware life experience, we're really, really very narrow, very limited in what we can see, what we can perceive. I love this quotation from A Course in Miracles. It says, "Forgiveness is the healing of the perception of separation. Correct perception of your brother is necessary because minds have chosen to see themselves as separate. We have chosen in our limited perspective to contain ourselves as separated beings, but we know from a quantum physics perspective that we're still all a part of one intrinsic energy, one collective energy. And yet, through the construction of this log, through the construction of this limited vision and viewpoint that we put before our eyes, we can only see this much, tiny little speck. And from that tiny little speck or perspective, we have isolated ourselves from every other form of life. We believe that we are all by ourselves, and we forgot the essential spiritual reality that we are continuously intermingling with one another, literally on the level of our molecules from moment to moment to moment. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, said forgiveness really means the giving up of something. And what I'm just suggesting to you this morning is that true forgiveness is not an act of benevolence that we, in our wonderful spiritual nature, bestow another person with. It's like, well, you really messed me over with that one, but I love you anyway, and I'm going to set down the fact that you are this jerk and just try to behold the Christ presence in you. It's not an act of benevolence. It really isn't. It's an act of waking up and realizing spiritual reality, which means that everybody and everything that is not in accord with the number one unity basic principle of one presence and one power has to be given up. This is what Charles Fillmore is telling us. Give up your limited perceptions. Give up the log. Hand the log over to God. Lock, stock, and barrel. Just say, take this log from my eyes, and my friends, it will be taken. And only in that moment will you be able to see clearly then that there is one presence, one power, that we're all children of God, one child of God, interconnected, and that we dwell forever in God's kingdom. Here's an exercise for you to enter into this week. If you'll consider this, if you'll humor me, I want you to make, and this is very powerful if you're guided to do it, make a list of everybody and everything that has offended you. Make it as comprehensive as you possibly can, but go for the current subject matters first. The person that ticked you off last week, or the former ex-partner, that left you and betrayed you and did you wrong. I want you to make a list of all these people and any circumstances in your life as well that have in any way offended you. Now, I want you to remember the spiritual reality that we're always telling you from this platform, and that is that victimization is impossible. None of us are victims here. Even though it seems at times that we're being victimized by people, circumstances, and the world around us, it is not true. There is only one of us here. There's only one presence. There's only one power. That's a spiritual reality. If I see otherwise, whose issue is that, my friends? If I can't see the one spiritual reality of life, whose issue is that? It's only mine. I'm the only one that can remove that log. If I see otherwise, it's because I'm creating a perception from behind a log of inaccurate limitation. My offenders offer me a gift. They remind me that I cannot see accurately. I should thank them. If you're walking around with a blindfold over your eyes, you should be grateful when someone brings that to your attention so that you can start to remove it. My inaccurate perceptions are for giving to God. That, I believe, is the essential definition of true forgiveness. To realize that every one of your perceptions is for giving. You give it to God. You give it to the presence and the power of God. So I invite you to join me right now in closing your eyes if that's comfortable for you. I want you to bring one offender to mind. This is an individual that at some point in the past, be it relatively recent or long ago, offended you, hurt you, harmed you in some way, betrayed you, let you down. Just bring him to mind. Hold him in the most loving space that you can. Realize that on some level, they're here to gift you. They're here to support you in removing that log from your eyes. And let's speak this Ho'oponopono prayer together, and I want you to speak it to this individual. I'll speak it first, and then we'll speak it together. I love you. Together, I love you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Thank you. Thank you. Now, once may not be enough for you, but if you stay with this process, I guarantee you, your enemies, your offenders, will begin to drift away. Your relationships will be transformed, and you will not be any longer carrying around the harsh burdens from the past. I did not say that you have to call them up tonight and offer to take them to dinner. Nor am I in any way proposing that we accept abusive behavior from other individuals, my friends. Hear me on that. I'm not saying that you have to maintain the connection. I'm just saying clear the space in your mind. Get the weights, get the stuff out of your own vision. That's what's important. You're responsible for keeping your own house here. You're responsible for identifying those moments when you do feel triggered, when you do feel offended, and for giving that perception of offense to your higher nature. You know, I guess all of us on this planet have had infinite numbers of opportunities to both be offended and to forgive. And for myself, long before I ever understood that forgiveness was totally my responsibility, long before I ever could have stood up here and told you that every offense is a gift worthy of your thanksgiving, long before that I would hold on to hostilities and resentments for years. You know, I've told you the story about the breakup in my own life. After 18 years of marriage, my wife finds another man, and off she goes. And I'll tell you, that one took a long, long time. And it took me years to be able to get to the place where I could look her in the eye and not only say, I forgive you, but thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Because, my friends, there is something more important than being right. There is something more important than being justified. There is something more important than vindication. And it's called freedom. I mean, true freedom, where you and I are not any longer chained and bound by these shackles from the past, from all these awful acts that have been committed toward us, not realizing that we ourselves have been a part of the chemistry that has drawn everything in our life experience to us. And we've done it for good reasons, because we're spiritually brilliant. And I'll tell you this, the moment that you can get to that place of really knowing and believing, I love you, I'm sorry, Please forgive me. Thank you. In that moment when you can say it and mean it with conviction coming from your heart, you are free. And it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So I'm telling you this morning, my friends, because I love you and because I want you to experience this same level of freedom, don't hesitate. As close to the moment in which you feel offended or wronged, remember what's going on here. Remember what Jesus told you. Get that cotton pick and plank out of your own eyes, and then you can see clearly to begin to help everybody and everything in your world be in spiritual reality the true reflection of God's presence and God's power that it is. God bless you. Our prosperity opportunity.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay, a spiritual community located in Miami, Florida. Unity on the Bay is supported by the generosity of its community. If you'd like to make a donation or learn more about Unity on the Bay, please visit unityonthebay.org. You can also follow Unity on the Bay on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for even more positive spiritual inspiration. Until next time, thanks for listening and many blessings. Namaste.